welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be working on the Mighty Heartbreaker Tote Bag by K.azcona Designs. I'm going to do a sew along, and here's what I'm working with. We got parts A, outer and inner. We've got slip pocket, zipper pocket. We have the gusset over here and the gusset lining, as well as the foam interface. The first part of the pattern instructions is going to be how to do the zipper pocket. So here is the lining piece with the zipper pocket. So what I did is I used the template that comes with the pattern, and I cut out this little rectangle here. Now you can do this any way that you'd like. I added a zipper overlay, so I stitched it on all the way around on the outside. I added my zipper and my first piece of the pocket and stitched the zipper in place. The pattern goes into pretty good detail on how to do a zipper pocket if you've never done one before. So where I am starting off is step 23 in the instructions, which is where you take your backing, you lay it on top like this, and you go ahead and pin or clip all the way around to hold it together. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Alright, you should have something that looks like this. And we're on to the next step. The next step is going to be to sew the sides of the pocket down. So what you're going to do, you're going to flip this over, pull this to the side like that so it exposes the side of the zipper pocket, and then you're going to go ahead and stitch down the side seam. Okay, and you're going to repeat it on the other side. Once you have your side seams of your pocket sewn, you're going to go ahead and do the top and the bottom as well. So same thing, flip it over, pull this back to expose the pocket, stitch along the top, and stitch along the bottom. And don't forget the back stitch. You should now have a fully formed pocket on the inside. Here's what it looks like, all stitched up on all four sides. And here is the inside of the pocket. Pretty roomy, can hold lots of things. You can probably put a cell phone in there. Actually, I'm pretty sure you could put a cell phone in there. Alright, so now we're on to the next piece. So here is the slip pocket. The instructions say to put them right sides together. Stitch here, and stitch down here. You're going to leave the top open if you want to add the little accent piece. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to stitch all sides, leave a little opening to turn, and then stitch it on the back. So you have your pocket piece. This is a slip pocket piece. You're going to fold it right sides together. You can pin it if you'd like, just to keep it still. And you're going to go ahead and stitch the sides first. So here's where in the pattern you would go ahead and flip it right side out. and add your little accent topper piece. So what I'm going to do, which is different from the pattern, this is just how I prefer it for my bag. I'm going to stitch it here and leave like a little opening to turn it. Trim all my little threads. And now I can turn it through this pocket, but I'm going to go ahead and snip all of the corners first. I'm going to grab one of the corners, push it through, and just continue pushing it through until it comes out the other side, the right side facing out. Then you can poke all your corners. My hand strength is not very good, so it might take me a little bit here. There we go. You can go ahead and take this to your iron and press it so that it's nice and smooth. After you press it, you'll have something that looks like this. So now what I do to close it off is I kind of just pull the sides of the opening and roll it down. And I'll go ahead and clip it and set this piece aside. Alright, so now we're going to attach the pocket to the lining like so. You're going to place your pocket down as per the instructions in the booklet with the measurements, and you're going to stitch here, here, and here. I'm going to use some very, very thin double-sided tape to put on each side of the underside so I can stick this to my fabric. It makes it easier to sew. I had to cut the video because that took me a very long time for some reason. So now I have the tape on the sides. I'm going to find my center, use the measurements from the instructions to place my slip pocket. Like that. Smash it down. And now I'm going to sew from here, here, and here. Double stitching at the tops. I'm doing a 1/8 seam allowance. So you'll be coming to where you had your opening, and this is going to stitch it down and tack it down at the same time. And stitching at the top. So if you'd like, you can go over this part a couple more times, which is what I'm going to do to give it more stability, because this is going to see a lot of use and you don't want it to come apart. I now have my slip pocket attached. I'm going to go ahead and clean up all of my little jump threads. The next step is going to be done on the front piece, the main piece. So I'm going to grab that. Make sure you have transferred all of your markings. I did so with a little slit. So I have the middles, I have where your straps should go. here. And I also have the side seams where you're going to attach the gusset. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your strap, and this is cut to the dimensions provided in the pattern, and you are going to center your strap with your marking, clip it, and tack it down. Make sure to leave a little bit at the top, and I like to burn it just so it doesn't fray. So I did strap ends, which is not included in the pattern, so I'm not going to be attaching a nylon strap. Instead, I'm going to make little purse straps for mine. So here's the little anchors that I placed. If you'd like to learn how to do the strap connectors, I can make another tutorial about that as well. After you put on your straps on both the front and the back piece on the right side, you're going to go ahead and start the gusset process. So here's the gusset, and what you're going to do is you're going to match up your center points. So you have a center point here, and a center point here, a center point here, and a center point here. And you're going to do that with right sides together. So I like to do it just like this. So I'll line it up with my center point and clip it on like that. Then you're going to line up your top of your gusset here with your gusset marking here. So, like so. You can adjust it as you go. This is just the starting point on how you're going to attach it. And you always want to make sure that you have the right sides facing each other. So now you can go ahead and start lining these up so that you can stitch them on. Ignore my clips. I have like a ton of different variety in here. These little plastic ones break so much that I've just been collecting. So there we go. Make sure you don't have any tucks or puckering. And then when you get back up to here, you're going to align it more with the curve here and clip it on. So it should look something like this. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side. So starting down here, you can start lining it up. Putting along the edge, like so. Once you get to where your gusset is, make sure to curve it in. If your gusset doesn't line up perfectly the first time, you can always adjust it to where it lines up how you'd like it to. So once you have that on and you have lots of clips, you're going to go ahead and stitch the gusset to the main panel using a 1/4 seam allowance. Make sure to go slowly. So you make sure you grab both layers. You can also staple this if you'd like. There's information in the instructions on how to do that. Kim taught me that trick, and it is wonderful. Just keep lining up and slowly moving around the curves. You can make this on a domestic machine. I've made about 5 of these, and this is the only one so far that I've made on my industrial machine. All the other ones were made on my Juki TL series machine. So you don't need one of these big fancy machines to do this pattern. Okay, now we have it sewn on. This is how it looks. This is how it's looking. It should be all smooth on the inside. I like to go ahead and kind of flip it out. Make sure that I caught all of the material in the seam. Looks good. Alright, we can move on to the next step. Your front and back pieces should also both have the strap on them at this point. If you don't have the strap on it, make sure you go ahead and add it before we continue. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing but with the lining material. So we're going to move this out of the way. Bring up our lining. This is the slip pocket piece. You can use either or. This is just what's in the instructions. And then you're going to go ahead and take your gusset lining and do the same thing that you did for the front with the gusset, right side spacing. So make sure that you line up your centers, line up your gusset markings, and go ahead and clip it around. And you'll do the same thing when you get to the mark where you're going to turn the gusset piece inward to line it up with these seams. So if you guys have any suggestions for clips, please let me know in the comments because these break all of the time. And as you can see, I've tried a bunch of different things. I actually think that these duck bills are my favorite for projects like this, or just projects in general, really. They hold very, very well. So when you have it all clipped on, make sure it's right size together. You can go ahead and stitch it at a 1/4 seam allowance all the way around, double stitching at the tops. Once you have everything all cut out, this bag comes together really quick and really easily. So I'm going to start here. I've got my seam allowance going. I'm using a waterproof canvas for my lining. That's my favorite lining material to work with. My pocket is also a waterproof canvas. Stitch along the edge here. Again, using a 1/4 seam allowance. Stitch all the way around. I know, I go so slowly. It's probably so boring to watch. I'm so sorry. There. I kind of flex it to make sure that there's no tucks, especially around this top part up here. Alright, so now let me cut these off, and I'm going to burn the threads here. Seal them up nice. So I'm an idiot and I forgot that you have to leave an opening for turning. So I'm going to go ahead and backstitch around here and backstitch probably around here. So these two areas, and then just unpick all of this here to leave it open. Alright, so I have gone ahead and unpicked it. So you should have a hole like this on the side, and this is where you're going to turn your bag at the end. Alright, So the next thing I want to do is add the backing to the front and gusset main panel. Okay, so here's my pieces. We're going to line it up just like we did with the lining, gusset, and the front piece here. So I'm going to line up my center points first. And clip it on. I'm going to line up my gusset tops here, like this, with the line. Same thing on both sides. That. And then, you know the drill, we're going to go ahead and line it up all the way along. Make sure you are grabbing both sides. I hope everyone's day is going well. It was a nice sunny day here in Florida. One of the first non-cloudy days we've had in a while. So that was nice to have some actual sunshine. Okay. Remember, when you get to the top, curve it in and clip it. You'll have something that looks like this. Now you're going to go ahead and stitch it on at a 1/4 seam allowance. I like to do it this way. However you do it is on you. Do it your favorite way, but this is how I do it. And if you want to remove the foam from the seams, you can go in with a little pair of scissors and just remove the excess foam. I found it didn't really affect how the bag looked at the end, so I'm just going to leave it in. Careful around these corners down here. So I'll have all of the information for the pattern, where to purchase, etc., embroidery, details, thread. I'll put that all in the description. Make sure you get that little curve. This is what we have so far. We have the outside done. Yours will have straps on it. Mine has strap connectors. Not part of the pattern, but they look cute. So now you can go ahead and do the same thing with your lining piece. So let's grab that. And there's the pocket piece. And here is our slip pocket and gusset. So now, let's do it this way. Take it right sides together. Line up your centers and do the exact same thing. So if you've ever made the original Heartbreaker bag, this one is going to be a breeze for you. I find this one to be so much easier than the Heartbreaker side bags. And I love the size of these. The one that I'm working on now is the medium size. The large is huge, and the small, I would say, is about the size, maybe a little bit bigger than the original Heartbreaker bags. They're all a really good size though. Just depends on what your needs are. All right, so we have the gusset on. Let's make sure that it looks pretty even. looks pretty even to me. Alright, we're going to go ahead and stitch it at a 1/4 seam allowance all the way around. See? I was missing a seam there. Lift my needle up for a minute. I am hoping that there is enough bobbin thread left to do this entire bag, because my bobbin winder on this machine doesn't want to work today. It's on strike. There's something so calming about watching a sewing or embroidery machine. Ta-da! So now we have the lining, and it has the hole for turning. This entire side is sewn down. And what we're going to do is go on to the next step. So with the lining, I actually wanted to show you something. You start off at 1/4 or a quarter, and then you gradually increase it to 3/4, and then you start decreasing it again to 1/4 all the way around. So it is a little bit wider of a seam at the bottom. So you can see it's a little bit wider of a seam allowance at the bottom than it is on the side over here. The next step is to turn this right side out. Make sure everything looks good. Make sure you got all of your seams. There's no holes. Look how cute that looks. You killed it with these, Kim. These are awesome. I love it. So I'm just kind of smoothing out the seams a little bit. Alright, now we are going to grab our exterior. This is our exterior. And we are going to place this inside of this with the right sides touching. So take this, place it inside like that. Wrong side to right side. And you're going to pin or clip along this entire top edge here. Make sure you take your time with this step because you want it to look nice with no tucks or puckers, and you want it to line up so that you can catch both layers when you're stitching. So take your time. Alright, so once you have it done, you'll have the wrong side showing on the inside and the wrong side showing on the outside. Oh my god, that was a mouthful. You can go ahead and sew all of this at a 1/4 seam allowance, and when you get to the corners, make sure you push the seam towards the gusset before you sew. So I'm going to start here, and it's going to be really hard to show what I'm doing, but I'm going to pull this top layer back and start stitching along this edge here, making sure I pulled my seam allowance towards the gusset. Just go slowly around the curves. Make sure you get both your lining and your exterior inside that seam. Alright, so you see this here? So what you're going to do is you're going to take it and pull it towards the gusset before you sew. Take it, line up, and I'm going to turn and pivot and continue sewing. I'm going to have to flex the bag around a little bit. Again, you're going to take your seam and press it towards the gusset and sew it down. These walking foot machines are so nice. They just move the fabric so perfectly. Alright, I'm almost back around to where I started. To keep flexing the bag, lining it up, making sure I'm grabbing both sides. Pushing the gusset, or the seam towards the gusset, and continuing. Seam towards the gusset, continuing on. And we're back to where we started. You'll now have something that looks like this. Wrong side, wrong side. So what I do is I always go over the corners again, just because it's a stress point. So I'll go do another stitch over top of that. And then I reach in and I find that hole that we left for the lining. And then I'll go in and feel along all of the seams to make sure we didn't miss anything. And then you can take it, pull your lining out, like so. Reach in that hole, grab a corner, a piece, and pull your main bag through that hole, like so. And we got it. There we go. Alright, so now you could go ahead and smooth it all out, and I'll be right back. So now, once you flip it, you'll have your right side and right side. You can go ahead and check all of your seams, make sure you caught everything. Once you do that, you can pull your lining back out. Try to get these seams straightened out a little bit on the inside. You're going to take this and do that same trick that I showed you with the slip pocket, where you grab the two ends and you kind of like shake them, and it kind of seals it up for you. So you can go ahead and clip that. Make sure you get both sides in there. There we go. Also make sure you don't have like too much of this on the inside. Maybe like 1/8 to 1/4 inch. So on this part you can do a ladder stitch if you want to hand stitch it to be invisible. You can do a glue. I don't like glue because it makes like a hard spot. Or you can just sew it closed with a color matching thread, which is what I'm gonna do. Roll it close it up. Alright, now I'm going to take it, put it underneath the foot, and sew. And I'm going to do that at 1/8 of an inch. Just make sure that you got both sides and that you didn't go over and that it's closed up. You can go ahead and cut your threads, burn them, whichever you prefer. Go ahead and burn them here. And burn this one up here. Looks good. Now you can clean up all these other little threads, push this lining back into the bag, and start rolling all of your seams out. Shove it in there. Alright, so now you're going to start rolling out your seams. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera and be right back. Alright, so I have flipped it and I have pinned it or clipped it along the entire exterior edge. Take your time with this. Make sure it looks really pretty and smooth. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to top stitch along the top edge all the way around at a 1/8 seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that now. It's really hard to show on camera, but I'm going to try to pull back as many layers as I can here to show you. Alright, so I'm starting here. There. Okay. So great. So now what I did is I flipped the bag so that the right side, the pretty side, with all your designs and everything, the exterior, is on the inside and the interior is on the outside. It just makes it easier for me to do some top stitching. So the pattern calls for 1/8 seam allowance, and I'm going to use 1/4 just because I prefer 1/4 over 1/8. You do whatever you feel is right. So I'm going to start over here and lift my presser foot, adjust my material so that it lays just perfectly, and start stitching. Same here, just as needed. To get it to line up super nicely. I'm being very careful at the corners because I don't want any puckering. So I'm taking care to flatten everything as I go. And go very slowly. Make sure it's all flat. favorite part of bag making, but it's also the most tiring for me. But it's my favorite part. I just think it brings everything together. Keeps everything all neat and clean. I have a lot of clips. Okay, we're getting back to a corner again. So we're gonna take our time and flatten that out best we can. All right, here we go. Pivot, and flatten. Pull the seam out so that it's flat. It's nice and clean. Adjust it. And another corner coming up. Now, that's better. Pivot again. And meet up with where you started. I'm gonna tie this off, flip it right side out, and we'll see what we've got. Okay, so we have it flipped right side out. So what you're gonna do is you're going to take your seam and just kind of roll it out like this. Give it nice shape. I have this tool that I like to use to press my seams. You could also do this with a blow dryer and some heat. Our heat gun works. There's also another tool you could use that looks like a clamp for the little wristlets. You can use that. Hopefully we got a good shape on this bag. It looks good so far. I promise this makes a big difference. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get this all pressed and be back. Here's the final bag after everything is done.